be mindful of the weather and be careful around those times of high tide and stay safe and dry.
Flooding is expected in St. Augustine through Tuesday. Jessica Beach is the Chief Resilience Officer for St. Augustine.
We are currently in king tide season for this month of October, and so it's going to continue through tomorrow. And during those times, we just caution everyone to keep an eye on the weather because we are expecting some minor coastal flooding possible around times of high tide.
Beach is asking residents to report flooding.
To report flooding through the city's website, we have a tool that can be used to report that flooding. And photos are really helpful because it does help us document and track the flooding. It's actually going to help support the two big studies that we've got going on within the city right now.
You can also email images of flooding to stormwater@citystaug.com. This local news is a service of your hometown Toyota dealer, Beaver Toyota, US 1 St. Augustine, here to wow you.
I'm really worried. I cringe when I get behind a horse, and I actually avoid Avenida Menendez because I see way too many near misses.
City of St. Augustine Commissioner Barbara Blonder expressed concern about horse-drawn carriages at last week's meeting. Liz Ryan explains why.
Because of safety concerns, she'd like to see horse-drawn carriages diverted away from Avenida Menendez.
I have spoken publicly about either doing that or reducing the number of horse-drawn carriages.
So when an opening for a horse-drawn carriage came up, she wasn't in favor of reissuing it. City Manager David Burcham explained,
most recently, there were 15 permits that had been issued by the city. One of those permits was not renewed. 3 companies immediately applied for me to issue that permit to their individual companies.
He denied their applications, and here's why.
The King Street Bridge redevelopment is going to occur within 1 year. The base of the Bridge of Lions on the east side is scheduled for redevelopment. Following that, King Street itself will be redeveloped by the city. Contrary to the public safety, to approve horse-drawn touring vehicles on these roadways at this time.
Teresa Hennigar was one of those denied, and the board heard her appeal. She has a permit but wants a second. She doesn't agree that all the construction downtown should be a factor in the decision.
We're clearly doing a lot of construction now that I go through. I am actually the one person with a horse that does go through it.
Commissioner Roxanne Horvath wanted a compromise.
A major amount of construction we're going to be facing. I concur that the city manager made the right decision to try to cut down the number of carriages. Could we do it where she could have the license until Nights of Lights is over, but then we take it off so that we can have less of that on the streets while we're doing all this?
She did not get that compromise. They voted 3-2 to overrule the city manager and issue that 15th permit. Horvath and Blonder voting no. Garris, Klein, and Springfield voting yes.
Have you noticed the big metal pole near the Black Fly restaurant on Anastasia Boulevard? Liz Ryan tells us its future.
I got the lowdown from Xavier Pellissier, mobility manager for the city of St. Augustine.
The DOT is constructing a pedestrian crossing that will go across Anastasia Boulevard, and it's going to be signalized. And so that's a big, giant mast arm is what it is, and it's going to be erected or constructed across Anastasia Boulevard. And so it'll have, some signals on it that will signalize to the traffic when a pedestrian pushes the button to cross the street.
That's a dangerous stretch of road to cross, and several pedestrians have been struck there. There's been a lot of public outcry to make it safer. I asked when that signalized crossing will be functional.
Well, it's currently under construction. It was to be completed before the end of this year, but they are having some issues with the supply chain, the traffic signal controller cabinet. They're having a hard time getting it delivered and manufactured.
So when will the signalized crossing debut?
Whenever they can get that controller cabinet, they can finish the project. But right now, it's going to be sometime next year before they'll be able to get that. It might be February right now is the approximate time frame.
For St. Augustine's Local Morning News, I'm Liz Ryan.
And now you're up to date with St. Augustine's Local Morning News. I'm Rich Carroll.